what if the reason you haven't achieved your biggest, most ambitious goal isn't because you aren't working hard enough,
Right.
but simply because you've been writing it down on the wrong kind of paper? I mean, or maybe your phrasing is secretly telling your brain to delay your success forever.
Yeah, that's a really interesting framing.
Well, if you're listening to this on your commute, or sitting at your desk, just think about the sheer amount of effort you put into your daily grind. You put in the late nights, you sweat it out, and yet sometimes your goals just barely inch forward.
It's exhausting.
It is. And then you look over and someone else is just breezing through open doors without even breaking a sweat.
It is an incredibly common frustration. And frankly, it's baked into how most of us are raised.
Mm.
We are culturally conditioned to believe that brute force, exhaustion, and burnout are kind of the only legitimate currencies that buy success.
Right. Like if you aren't suffering, you aren't earning it.
Exactly. So when we observe someone achieving remarkable things with a sense of ease or flow, we immediately assume it's unfair. Or we suspect they have access to some hidden knowledge we don't.
Well, today we're actually going to explore a framework that claims to be exactly that kind of hidden knowledge. For this deep dive, we are pulling apart a highly detailed, just really fascinating source.
Oh, yeah. It's a dense one.
It is. It's a YouTube video from the channel Glow by Mina, and it's titled Halal Magic: How to Write Your Goals and Force Your Reality to Manifest, Guide of the High-Value Woman.
Just to jump in here and set the baseline, we really need to clarify the source's use of the word magic,
Good call.
because it is not referencing the occult, casting spells, or anything supernatural. The video outlines a highly conscious, deliberate, psychological, and energetic framework for intention setting. I mean, it's basically about leveraging the mechanics of your own mind.
Right. And our mission today is to decode this framework because it weaves together elements of neuroscience, behavioral psychology, energy dynamics, and theology.
It's a very interdisciplinary approach.
Totally. And the underlying premise that you can take this abstract intention from the unseen ether of your imagination and pull it into tangible reality just by writing it down in a very specific way. I mean, that is a bold claim.
It's a massive claim.
But it's one worth investigating, especially for anyone looking for a smarter way to operate rather than just running endlessly on the treadmill.
It is a compelling premise, but the video is really careful to draw a hard line between this practice and blind wishing. Like, the framework isn't suggesting you just write a desire on a napkin, sit on your couch.
And wait for $1 million to fall through the ceiling.
Exactly. It's not magic in that sense. It is a rigorous system for aligning your internal psychological focus with your external physical actions.
Okay, let's unpack this. The very first step in that system is moving thoughts from the ether into matter. The source makes a great point about how volatile our thoughts actually
All
are.
incredibly volatile.
Right. When an idea is just bouncing around inside your head, it's basically just wandering energy. You might have this grand ambition to start a business on a Sunday night, but by Monday morning, a bad commute and, a spilled coffee completely derail your mood.
And the ambition just evaporates.
Oh,
Gone. Yeah. And it evaporates because unwritten thoughts lack a physical anchoring. The act of writing is described in the source as the first material embodiment of an idea.
the first material embodiment. I like that.
Yeah, it's the exact moment you force a formless, abstract concept into the physical dimensions of the real world.
Yeah.
And this isn't just some poetic metaphor. There is hard neurological science explaining why this physical act is so critical.
Oh, you're talking about the RAS, right?
Yes, it involves a network in the brain called the reticular activating system, or the RAS.
The RAS is such a crucial piece of our biology. I mean, if you think about the sheer volume of data hitting your brain right now, the temperature of the room, the hum of the refrigerator, the cars driving by outside, peripheral movements.
Right, it's a constant flood.
If your brain tried to consciously process all of that at once, it would just completely short circuit.
Exactly. So the RAS operates as a cognitive gatekeeper. Its primary function is to filter out the overwhelming noise of reality and only permit information into your conscious awareness that you've deemed important or relevant to your survival and your goals.
It's essentially the brain's own personal bouncer at a crowded VIP club.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
You have millions of people or pieces of data outside trying to get in, but the bouncer is holding a very strict guest list. When you physically write your goal down, you are essentially walking up to the bouncer and saying, hey, Put this specific opportunity on the guest list.
And if you see anything matching this description out in the world, do not turn it away at the door.
Exactly.
That analogy captures the mechanism perfectly. The source illustrates this activation with the classic white car phenomenon.
Oh, I've experienced this.
Most people have. Imagine you decide you want to buy a very specific model of a white car. Suddenly, you start seeing that exact car at every intersection.
In every parking lot, on highway billboards, literally everywhere.
Right. And obviously, everyone in your city didn't suddenly go out and buy that car overnight.
No, of course not. They were always there.
Those cars were always populating your environment. But prior to your decision, your RAS was just filtering them out as irrelevant background data. By setting the intention and formalizing it, you reprogram the filter.
Writing your goals explicitly instructs your RAS. This matters. Scan my environment and highlight any resources or opportunities related to this.
Precisely.
So the physical act of writing programs the mental filter. But what I found really surprising in this source is the emphasis on how you write.
Yes, the syntax.
Right. The video argues that the phrasing and the medium act as a programming language. If your syntax is wrong, it's like putting the wrong destination address into a GPS. We might be driving fast, but you just aren't going to arrive.
The video refers to this as a sort of cosmic language
Right.
governed by a few golden rules. And the most fundamental rule relates to time and tense. You are instructed to write strictly in the present tense.
Okay, so how does that sound in practice?
For instance, you begin with, I intend now to easily receive.
Ah, okay. So you completely avoid phrasing like, I will be successful or I want to get that promotion.
Precisely. And the psychology here is fascinating. When you use the future tense like, I will be, you're placing the goal in a state of permanent delay.
Wow. Okay.
You're signaling to your subconscious mind that the goal is always out of reach, always residing in tomorrow. And saying, I want, implies a current state of lack.
Which is the opposite of what you're trying to manifest.
Right. And past tense, like I intended, carries dead, completed energy. The subconscious mind operates entirely in the present moment, so your language must align with that reality.
That makes a lot of intuitive sense. You really have to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But the next rule of this syntax is where I think a lot of people listening, especially tech-heavy professionals, might hit a wall.
A handwriting rule.
Yes. The framework insists that you must write these intentions by hand, and specifically on completely blank, unlined paper. I mean, I live on my phone and my laptop. Why is typing in a notes app considered insufficient here?
Well, the video describes digital writing as cold and soulless for this particular neurological exercise.
Cold and soulless. Ouch.
Right. But think about it. When you type, every letter requires the exact same physical motion, just a simple tap of a key. But when you write by hand, you are engaging fine motor skills, spatial memory, and complex neural pathways.
You're actually coordinating your brain, your muscular movements, and your physical rhythm.
Exactly. It forces you to slow down and creates a deep neurological imprint that a keyboard just cannot replicate.
Okay, I buy that. The mind-body connection makes sense. But what about the unlined paper? Why couldn't I just use a standard college-ruled notebook from the store?
The psychology of the unlined paper is one of the most nuanced points in the entire framework, actually. Think about what lines on a page represent. From our earliest days in grade school, lines dictate boundaries.
Oh, I see where this is going.
They tell us where to start, where to stop, how big our letters can be, and how to conform. By choosing entirely blank, unlined paper, you are subconsciously removing those artificial constraints.
You are signaling absolute freedom and limitless possibility to a brain that is otherwise heavily conditioned to stay within the lines.
Precisely.
That is a brilliant psychological trick. You are using the physical medium to subtly bypass your brain's self-imposed limitations. But if unlined paper removes all our boundaries, we probably need to be incredibly careful with that freedom.
Very careful.
Which ties right into the next rule the source emphasizes: hyper-precision. You cannot afford to be vague when you have no boundaries.
Vague requests inevitably yield vague results. The subconscious mind, and by extension your RAS, needs exact coordinates. The video uses a highly relatable restaurant analogy to explain this.
Yes, I love this analogy. If you walk into a high-end restaurant, sit down, and just yell at the waiter, "I'm hungry, bring me food," you have technically made a request.
Technically, yes.
But they might bring you a plate of shellfish, and you might be deathly allergic to shellfish. You can't really blame the waiter or the kitchen. I mean, you failed to specify your requirements.
Applied to goal setting. This means you don't just write down, I want a new car. The framework demands precision. You write, I intend now to own a pearl-colored car with comfortable leather seats that serves my daily mobility with joy, safety, and reliability.
You're actively defining the parameters of your success so your brain knows exactly what to look for.
Yes, you have to paint the picture.
But there is a hard limit to what you can ask for, which is where things get complicated for a lot of people. The final syntax rule restricts your intentions strictly to your own personal scope. You cannot write intentions designed to change the behavior or feelings of another person.
What's fascinating here is that this is a crucial ethical and energetic boundary in the framework. Every human being operates with free will. When you attempt to override someone else's free will, even just conceptually through an intention like, I intend for my boss to stop being so micromanaging, or I intend for this specific person to fall in love with me, you create massive energetic resistance.
Because you're pushing against an immovable boundary.
Exactly. It naturally backfires.
Okay, so if I can't violate someone else's free will, that means I can't just write my way out of dealing with a terrible boss. I would have to reframe the entire intention around my own experience.
How would you phrase it?
Well, instead of demanding the boss change, I'd have to write something like, I intend now to work in an environment where my boundaries are honored and I receive deep respect and peace in my daily tasks.
That is the exact pivot the source recommends. By shifting the focus entirely to your own reception, you stop trying to control others. You force the environment to adapt to you.
Or you naturally prompt your RAS to find a different environment that matches your intention.
Exactly. All without violating anyone else's autonomy.
Okay, so we have this beautifully crafted intention. It's written in the present tense by hand on blank paper. It's hyper-specific, and it only focuses on our own growth.
Yes.
But obviously, just having a piece of paper sitting in a desk drawer doesn't magically teleport a car into my driveway or a new job into my life. There has to be a bridge between the notebook and reality.
The bridge consists of activation and physical action. But before you take action, the source warns of a major vulnerability. You have to protect the goal. The video strongly advocates for keeping your intentions completely secret in what it calls a secret notebook.
Why the secrecy? I mean, isn't accountability supposed to be a good thing? We always hear about accountability partners.
Accountability works for habits, like going to the gym. But new, ambitious goals are energetically fragile. If you share a massive, fledgling dream with someone who operates from a place of cynicism, limitation, or even envy, their doubt acts as a wet blanket on your momentum.
Oh, I've definitely felt that. You internalize their skepticism.
Exactly. Secrecy acts as an incubator.
And to build momentum inside that incubator, the video introduces this concept of the magic check mark. The strategy is to start by writing down tiny, highly probable intentions. Things like, I intend to have a peaceful afternoon, or I intend to enjoy a really great cup of coffee today.
And when that inevitably happens, the practice is to take your pen, physically draw a massive, deliberate check mark next to the goal, and write a note of deep gratitude, such as, praise be to God.
It's basically Pavlovian conditioning for your own confidence.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
You're literally training your subconscious nervous system to associate the act of writing in that specific notebook with guaranteed success. It builds a track record so that when you write down the big goal, your brain implicitly trusts that it will happen.
It creates an undeniable internal belief system. But, the external world still requires physical action.
Yeah.
The video provides a really compelling case study of a woman named Sarah to illustrate this.
Right, the car story.
Yeah. Sarah set an intention for a specific, expensive car, but her current reality was that she had absolutely zero money to pay for it.
But she doesn't just sit on her couch visualizing the car and waiting. Here's where it gets really interesting. She takes massive, borderline illogical physical action. She goes to the local dealerships. She physically sits in the exact model she wants.
She smells the leather interior.
Yes, she talks to the salespeople and researches the financing options as if she has the cash in her pocket that very day.
She is matching her physical, somatic state to her mental intention. By showing up and behaving as if the reality is already unfolding, she signals total readiness. And according to the source, this physical alignment opened a pathway.
An unexpected side project materialized shortly after, providing the exact funding she required.
Right.
This brings up a massive paradox, though. How can Sarah take that level of intense physical action, literally sitting in a car she currently cannot afford, without succumbing to desperation? Because the video is incredibly strict about the fact that attachment and desperation will kill a goal instantly.
This touches on a psychological concept known as the law of reversed effort. Attachment is entirely rooted in fear and lack. It's the physiological state of thinking, if I don't get this car, I am a failure.
And when you operate from desperation, your nervous system spikes with cortisol, you get tunnel vision.
You actually repel opportunities because you are operating in a state of threat. The source uses the analogy of a butterfly to explain the alternative.
Ah, yes. If you're frantic and desperate and you sprint through a garden aggressively swiping at a butterfly to catch it, you create chaotic air currents. The butterfly will naturally fly away from the threat.
But if you walk into the garden, appreciate the environment, and sit perfectly still with a sense of calm and grace, the butterfly is highly likely to land right on your shoulder.
That's a beautiful image.
Action without attachment means you do the passionate work, like Sarah going to the dealership, but internally, your nervous system is relaxed. You possess the quiet confidence that you are entirely whole and okay, whether the goal manifests tomorrow or next year.
You do the work, but you surrender the timeline. But let's say a listener is doing all of this. They're using the unlined paper, they're taking action, their nervous system is calm, they're sitting gracefully in the garden waiting for the butterfly, and absolutely nothing is happening. The framework says this is the moment we have to stop looking at the sky and start looking at the soil.
Precisely. It introduces the concept of the subconscious garden. The core principle is emptying before sweetening. You cannot plant premium rose seeds in soil that is choked with weeds, rocks, and toxic runoff.
And in this context, the weeds are deeply buried limiting beliefs. They're childhood traumas or inherited narratives like money changes people for the worse or I don't fundamentally deserve to be happy.
If those subconscious weeds are present, they will strangle your conscious intentions before they can even sprout.
So to clear the soil, the framework prescribes a very intense purge exercise. You take a totally separate disposable piece of paper, definitely not your pristine secret notebook, and you engage in raw, unfiltered free writing.
You write out every dark, anxious, negative fear you harbor regarding your goal. Every voice in your head telling you that you're an imposter or that you will fail.
You pull it out of your subconscious and trap it on the page. And then you physically destroy the paper. You tear it to shreds or you burn it safely in a sink, actively declaring that you're releasing these beliefs. But why the physical destruction? Why not just type out your fears in a document and hit delete?
Because your nervous system requires somatic closure. Hitting a digital delete key doesn't register to the primitive parts of your brain as a neutralized threat.
It's just a button press.
Exactly. But the tactile act of tearing paper, or the visual evidence of watching it turn to ash, provides physical proof to your nervous system that the threat is gone. It allows your body to release the stored tension associated with those fears.
Wow. Okay. So once the internal soil is cleared, the video shifts to how we actually move through the world to pursue the goal. It frames this through the dynamic of masculine and feminine energy, defining them as energetic archetypes rather than gender roles.
Right. Masculine energy is characterized as the arrow. It is linear, logical, and focused on chasing, planning, and exerting physical effort. It's the energy of pushing forward and breaking through barriers.
Which is basically the defining energy of modern hustle culture.
It is. Feminine energy, conversely, is the magnet. It is characterized by intuition, stillness, radical self-care, trusting the unseen process, and most importantly, the capacity to receive.
The video makes a profound critique here. It argues that a massive portion of the population, especially modern women, are experiencing severe burnout because they're operating almost exclusively in that masculine arrow energy.
There's this toxic belief that if you aren't actively bleeding and exhausting yourself for a goal, you haven't earned it.
It's a glorification of the struggle.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this framework insists that true power lies in knowing when to deploy the arrow to plan and take physical steps, and when to shift into the magnet. You have to know when to step back, regulate your nervous system, and allow the environment to deliver the results.
Because the philosophy here is that ease is the default state of a healthy system.
Yes. If something is impossibly difficult, it is often a sign of your own energetic resistance.
This really expands the scope of the deep dive. We started with a trick about unlined paper, but what the source is actually outlining is a comprehensive lifestyle redesign. Because if ease is the default state, your daily environment has to reflect that.
Absolutely. The internal world and the external world are locked in a constant feedback loop. You cannot incubate a high-level goal in a low-level environment. The source breaks this ecosystem of success down into 3 specific environments you must aggressively curate.
The first is your physical environment, decluttering your workspace, getting rid of clothes you don't wear. But there is a very specific, almost startling instruction about kitchen cabinets. The video insists that you must immediately throw away any cracked plates or chipped coffee cups.
I know it sounds minor, but it's fundamentally about priming your subconscious. Broken items radiate the energy of neglect and lack. Every time you drink from a chipped cup, you're subtly signaling to your brain that you only deserve damaged, broken things. You are normalizing poverty in your immediate environment.
So, out with the broken cups. The second environment is social. The framework suggests going on a relationship diet.
This doesn't mean brutally cutting people out of your life, but it requires establishing ironclad boundaries with individuals who chronically complain, who wallow in victimhood, or who constantly drain your optimism. Your nervous system co-regulates with the people around you.
You have to protect your baseline.
You really do.
And the third is the digital environment, which might be the hardest one today. It means ruthlessly unfollowing social media accounts that trigger feelings of inadequacy, envy, or that present highly filtered fake lifestyles that make you feel like you are falling behind. Your feed should only feed your inspiration.
Once you've cleared these physical, social, and digital spaces, the framework introduces its final foundational pillar, the spiritual capstone. It's important to note that the source frames these psychological tools under a specific theological umbrella, primarily rooted in Islamic spiritual traditions, though the psychological principles are universally applicable.
The core of this capstone is a concept they call good faith, which maps very closely to what behavioral psychologists might call the law of assumption. It's based on a tradition that states the Creator gives you exactly what you expect. I am as my servant thinks of me.
If you walk through life expecting a harsh, punitive, withholding universe, your RAS will actively seek out evidence to prove you right. If you expect divine generosity and abundance, that expectation literally shapes your reality.
To maintain this abundant mindset, the source prescribes daily litanies, or weird. Think of this as daily mental hygiene, like brushing your teeth but for your neural pathways. It involves practices like seeking forgiveness, which the video connects to clearing unseen emotional blockages and opening rivers of wealth.
It also includes the practice of haqala, which is a formal declaration that you possess no ultimate personal power or might. This isn't about weakness. It is the ultimate psychological release of control.
It's admitting you can't micromanage the universe.
Exactly, which instantly drops your anxiety and invites a higher intervention. You're taking your hands off the steering wheel when the car is stuck in the mud.
And finally, there is a fascinating mechanical use of charity. The video suggests that the moment you write down a major, ambitious goal in your notebook, you should immediately give away a small amount of money or resources, specifically with the intention of unlocking that goal.
It is the ultimate physical proof against a scarcity mindset. If you are terrified you won't achieve your goal, you hoard your resources. By giving something away freely, you send a powerful somatic signal to your brain that you exist in a state of overflow, not lack. It primes the pump of abundance.
So what does this all mean? If you're listening to this and you've been feeling the burn of the endless treadmill, well, this deep dive is really an invitation to step off and become the deliberate architect of your own reality.
It really is.
It means leveraging the science of your RAS through writing. It means mastering the cosmic syntax by using the present tense on unlined paper.
It requires navigating the delicate balance between taking bold, physical action, like Sarah researching cars she couldn't afford, and maintaining the calm, magnetic detachment of sitting still in a butterfly garden.
It demands that you aggressively weed out your subconscious traumas and fiercely protect the boundaries of your physical, social, and digital environments.
It is a profound amount of alignment. But the promise of this framework is that you are not obligated to accept an exhausted, fated version of your life. You have the mechanics at your disposal to reshape it entirely, and it starts simply with a blank notebook and a pen.
It's an incredibly powerful toolkit.
It is. But implementing it successfully leaves us with one final, lingering question to consider.
Oh, what's that?
Think back to the sheer frustration of the treadmill we discussed at the beginning. If you actually master this process, if you clear your subconscious garden, perfect your syntax, and balance your masculine and feminine energy so seamlessly that your wildest, most ambitious goals simply become your everyday reality, how do you prevent yourself from taking it all for granted? When the absolute extraordinary becomes your completely ordinary baseline, how do you maintain the gratitude and the energy of that very first magic checkmark?